So yeah, this show is about talking to creatives and folks in the, especially entertainment industry, about what forged you, how you got to where you are. We're hearing a lot of very interesting things from everybody when they sit down and finding those little nuts and bolts and linchpins in their life that kind of got them where they are. So why don't we kind of start there a little bit, kind of how you got rolling, and I don't know if you need to talk a bit more about what you're doing currently to get there, but let's piece that all together.
Yeah, sure. So I can give you the rundown of my background. So I started in games working in games after I got out of the Marine Corps. I was active duty in the Marine Corps, and then in the late 90s I started making mods for Rainbow Six, the original old school Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
And kind of, there's a whole long story, but eventually finagled that into a job in the games industry. I got hired at Red Storm Entertainment, started at Ubisoft there as an assistant designer, worked my way up to lead designer and creative director on the Ghost Recon franchise, focusing on the Xbox.
Excellent.
So that was pretty cool. Went to Bungie for a few years. I was a design lead on Halo Reach.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love Halo. We had Steve Downs on here.
I know. I saw him here. Yeah. He's looking great. So that's awesome. I heard. Is that a rumor that he got picked up for the Showtime, or is that confirmed?
I'm not sure. See, now I think you know more than we know now.
I read something about it. I don't know, but if Showtime's smart, they're going to sign him to be Master Chief.
Absolutely.
I don't know how they can do a Master Chief.
He did say
he
had some stuff to announce.
He said that he was
You'd be a little wily.
So.
Yeah, just what I heard on the internet. I don't know. But anyway, and then I was at Warner Brothers for a few years, worked on a bunch of different stuff, some Mad Max, some Lord of the Rings, some of the Midway acquisitions that went down. And then I ran my own studio for a few years, shipped a few games using Unreal. Which was the first time I used Unreal. We had a game called Takedown Red Saber, another game called Epsilon. I even shipped a virtual simulation, a VR sim of being a blind person, which was interesting.
It was just a black screen?
Yes.
Yeah,
120 frames per second.
Nice.
Consistent.
I love
that. It was pretty awesome.
Can run it with a GTX 10?
Yeah.
And Jeremy's getting sent back to sensitivity training again.
But then I joined, just in the last year, I joined Epic Games, so I work on the Unreal Engine side, basically helping. I do, a lot of outreach, but my main focus is on smaller and independent developers using Unreal Engine to make awesome video games. So
cool.
Helping them succeed and put out awesome games.
Wow. Super cool.
That's amazing, man.
Well, that's why I'm happy. I'm excited to have Christian here to check out the games that we've got going on. Most of them local from Phoenix, but we have a few from outside of Phoenix as well. So, yeah. Yeah,
I lived in Phoenix for a few years,
really?
actually right before I started at Red Storm, and always loved it down here. And, it's a great, center for tech.
Yeah.
And wish it was a bigger center for games, because it's a great gaming community. And,
we're working on it.
The show's been super positive. I mean, it's just the vibe here has been really fun. Like,
we keep hearing that. We hear that from everybody.
Yeah, it's a good variety of people. It shows off the diversity and gamers in the games industry, and everybody's just happy and positive and exciting, and that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Love that. So you have a wealth of experience in the games industry. That's pretty awesome. That's really exciting.
I've been around. Yeah, I've done a few things.
So this seems, is this a quite of a switch doing what you do now than what you have been doing?
Well, it's different in that, I work for the business development team at Epic.
Yeah.
So, obviously Epic has the game development side with, Fortnite and a few other titles. And then they have the engine side, which develops the Unreal Engine used in, all around the world, both in games and in just enterprise technology by companies like McLaren and Harley Davidson and things like that. And they needed the title of or role of Unreal Evangelist is really a unique one. There's 5 of us right now around the world. And what they needed was someone that had, game development experience in both AAA and independent development, business experience, experience on both the creative side and the technical side. And when they kind of explained the role to me, I was like, wow, I check all those boxes. So
he's a unicorn. That's why.
I was gonna say that's a very rare person.
But it's a cool side of things because one, I still get to have my own creative outlets. I work on my own demo projects in Unreal. Only now I get instead of when I was independent, now I get a paycheck while I'm doing that. That's pretty cool. My wife's really happy about that. So I'm working on this cool demo right now using, I don't know if you guys heard, but last year Epic had a game called Paragon, which was a MOBA that they shut down after the success of Fortnite, and it really wasn't financially viable. But they released all the characters and a bunch of the assets to the Unreal community for free, about $12 million worth of assets that anybody using Unreal can use in their games. And so when I was building demos for the various talks that I do at shows, or especially I speak a lot at schools and our Unreal meetup groups, I'm a blueprint scripter, a scripter by background. My demos were a little boring looking, and so I grabbed those Paragon assets, and I'm actually building this cool battle chess game using the characters. So I got all the Paragon characters fighting and killing each other, which is really cool. So I get that creative outlet, and then the really exciting things is doing the developer outreach, where I jump on Twitter, I go to the meetups, and I reach out to these independent developers, jump on the phone with them, really talk through where they're at, where they're going, what their plans are, help them, talk about funding, development, just all the aspects that, especially newer developers, about what they're going to get into, what their plans are, and just really be an advocate for them to help them ship games, because if they ship an awesome games in Unreal, then they make a bunch of money, then we make a bunch of money.
That's incredible. And I mean, I wish that was emulated more throughout the creative spectrum. We just worked on our first feature film. We went way over our heads in a good way.
In a great,
turning out,
it's turning out pretty
aces.
Yeah.
But we had to learn all these things the hard way, and nobody wanted to help.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they want it to be really hard so that it stays within, a confined box almost. And it's really, really cool that Epic Games is sending you out to
fostering
kind of
community.
Break that down. That's amazing.
I mean, it's awesome. Like when I went from AAA, I left Warner Brothers in 2011 and ran a Kickstarter. We raised a couple $100,000, started my own company, spun up a studio. We actually got up to 20 people at one point. And I ran my studio for a little over 4 years, which in the games industry can be a big success.
That's a good run, man.
Yeah, it was a good run. But, learned a lot of painful lessons, a lot of things that I hadn't considered, coming from AAA when you have multi-million-dollar projects and going into the independent space. Gamers can be very picky about what they're getting, and they don't necessarily care whether you have a big budget or a small budget. So learning all those lessons, the business lessons and the community lessons and the PR lessons, and being able to bring that and apply it to helping other game developers. And really it comes down to be frank, the business model of the Unreal Engine, which anybody can download for free.
Yeah.
You can go get it right now.
Love that.
And basically the royalty structure for the basic license is if you ship a game and you make money, then you pay a royalty to Epic. If you don't ship a game, and you don't make any money, then you don't pay any money. So it really is, we want to encourage as many people as possible to get the engine, but we also want to encourage people to be successful.
Absolutely.
That's
It's
the
a
key.
great model.
You're seeding the industry and seeing what sprouts, and then you go in as the evangelist, seems like, and kind of help cultivate that talent. I'm using a lot of bad farm analogies
He's a
right
gardener.
now. Yes, but that's cool, man. And that's a very unique approach.
I do think it is unique, and it is a cool. It's just a cool business model.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of room for growth and a lot of room for expansion as the engine moves into different forms. Moving into TV, moving into movies. People are starting to realize that real-time rendering is a big thing in cinema.
It's amazing. I saw some of those demos that blew my mind,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Crazy.
And
was it the filmmaker who's doing all that?
James Cameron and Rodriguez.
No, it was the guy who made District 9.
Oh, Blank Cup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neil.
Isn't, what's Oat Studios? I
I'm
believe.
not familiar with
They did
that.
a series of those 8
They're doing,
animations, right?
He just small kind of concept shorts. And
Oh,
they're
right, yeah.
Building so much, yeah.
So
Yeah.
With those
entertaining.
robots or whatever,
Yeah.
future apocalyptic type thing.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, a lot of folks in Hollywood are realizing that the technology that you use to build a optimized game to run on a console real time across, say Fortnite across all the platforms in the world all the time.
Ridiculous.
All that technology can really be a benefit to filmmakers.
Oh my God, yeah.
I had one of the great things that I got to do when I worked at Warner Brothers. I got to work with, have the opportunity to meet with and work with George Miller on Mad Max and Peter Jackson on Lord of the Rings, and even going down to Weta and seeing their digital studio and the technology that they have has been amazing, but that the older movie technology was always, we film it and then we go process it and do it in post. Now using game technology these days, movie makers have realized they can do it real time.
Real time. That
It's
pipeline has
incredible.
become, there's no
Yeah.
beginning, middle, and end, it seems, half the time now.
It's
You're
almost
doing it
gone.
all on the fly,
Yeah.
and by the end of the day, you've got an assembled edit of what you shot that day.
Exactly.
And affected
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the movie creatives are realizing they can see their vision real time as they're creating it. They're not going back with an editor, 6 months later and recreating what they had in their mind at that moment. And that's huge. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. In terms of getting the vision that you have in mind, when you're trying to imagine, well, I hope in post that shot will work for this, and I guess we'll have to work with it in 6 months. No, but if you can change it on the fly and you see the characters and the monsters, through the viewfinder, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a taste of that when I was working on Halo Reach. We had a mocap rig set up with VR so that we
Yep.
could put on the VR helmet very early on. This was back, 2008, 2007, I forget, but and working with one of the cinematics where I actually mocapped. I think I was playing June at the time. I was doing the mocap for June as the sniper.
Yeah.
And then I came back into the same scene mocapping Noble 6
Wow.
in the same scene, and I could see June playing out what I just acted and see where June was pointing. And
Now, is
and
that live in the game?
that wasn't live in the
Okay.
game. That was as we were kind of doing the gray box for the cinematics.
Yeah.
But as a mocap actor,
Uh-huh.
and having directed a lot of mocap, especially in Ghost Recon, one of the biggest downsides in mocap was always, trying to explain to the actor what the heck was going on. Like,
Absolutely.
look over here, there's a helicopter.
Are you a fan of Ready Player One at all?
I am, yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
I saw Spielberg. He directed certain scenes with the VR, the Vive headset on. I think
Oh,
it
of
was the
course,
Vive.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it was, for the actors, just instrumental in painting that picture of where you are, what you're experiencing now. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's
beautiful.
amazing, man.
So what are you doing now?
Mainly just at Epic, I just do outreach.
Okay.
So, my job is different every single day, which is super exciting. I'm either working on my own demo projects, helping internally with various different things. I just found out on Friday they added me to the Fortnite credits, which is pretty cool.
That's
Oh,
huge.
so awesome.
I don't think
Congratulations.
I'm quite
That's-
deserving of that, but
You are, I'm sure.
Well deserved.
Yeah, I don't
Congratulations.
know,
That's
but
awesome.
but yeah, just doing a lot of outreach and helping developers. It is really cool because every day is something completely different. Whether it's a developer that's ready to, start up a Kickstarter campaign, or they're trying to finalize bugs, or
Yeah.
they're trying to get the word out, or they just want advice. I've sat down with developers. They're about to go into negotiations with a big publisher like next week, and they've never done it before and want to have tips. And I'm like, well, here's some tips. I won't say them because they,
Sure.
I'll keep them secret. But I just try to prepare developers as much as I can.
Well, speaking of that, where can people find you?
So my Twitter is @Cerelan. Probably just search me Christian Allen on Twitter. I'm Christian Allen, the game designer, not Christian Allen, the MMA fighter.
Very good.
So if you see a guy with big muscles, that's not me. Also, let's see, where else? LinkedIn is the big thing for developers.
Okay.
Again, search for Christian Allen Designer. That's where I encourage game developers. You can always hit me up on Twitter. You can always hit me up on LinkedIn. Facebook, I'm not going to respond.
Awesome.
So.
So for all of our budding game developers and designers out there, you know where to find the man himself. Blow up his inbox. No, sorry. But thank you so much for being on Forged with us, man. It
Yes.
means the world to us.
Yeah.
And thank you for inspiring the next generation of developers.
Well, thanks for
Yeah.
being here.
Love the
and,
work you're doing, yeah.
Yeah. Really appreciate you guys having us.
Awesome.
Having me.
Thanks.